Chapter 4. The phone rang. Eve picked up the receiver but did not utter a word. She was about to replace the gold-plated handset when a deep male voice came across. "Man of God," Eve announced. "Is that you? Surprise, surprise." Faith was curious. Is that a real man of God on the other end, or just another quaint name? She strained her ear, but could discern nothing. Eve leaned forward and blew her a kiss. "At the governor's party, of course. I remember. The governor introduced you himself. How can I forget a baritone voice like yours? I remember your whisper at the bar after midnight. You wanted to eat me for supper, point blank and ardent. How can I forget such a delicious man?" Faith could not hear the other half of the conversation, but she saw Eve's face change swiftly to an angry one. "So what is this?" she asked coldly. "An interview about how I answer my phone? If you have nothing else to say, I'll hang up." And she did. The phone started ringing at once. Eve picked up a silver stiletto. Faith's eyes followed the ornate weapon. The handle was carved ivory. The phone was insistent. Eve stabbed one of the apples in the silver fruit platter and took a bite. She chewed slowly while the phone continued to ring. When she was through with her first bite, she clicked the speakerphone. She said nothing. Eve listened for a while. "This is the first time in my life someone picked up the phone and kept quiet. I'll get used to it." The voice was familiar. One of the famous television preachers. But Faith could not be sure which one. "Well, I hope you aren't expecting an apology," Eve asked. This woman was standing many things Faith learned from her mother on their heads. Never be rude to a man. Reason with your man. But when it becomes an argument, there's no glory in winning it. Even if you feel you are right, apologize. Men go to war to defend the family. Women make peace to keep the family together. God made it that way. If you know you can't submit, don't marry. Eve was on the warpath as Faith's mother echoed from several past sermons. "Please try to be a little patient with me. I am a nice person if you get to know me," said the voice. "You were mistaking me for a member of your congregation. Never preach to me." "I was not preaching. I'm used to teaching, but I'm sorry." "Preaching, teaching, what's the difference? Did you call me just to enjoy a debate? Okay, I'm sorry. Faith had narrowed the option down to two famous television preachers. Apology accepted. What next? Don't be like that. Like what? As if your soul is still up. I bought you a Peugeot. How about that? That is why I called actually, to ask you where it should be delivered. Faith was now certain whom the voice belonged to. Bishop Joseph Ayegbenyinku. Only two preachers had this rich baritone, and only one is rich enough to offer a car gift. What has light got to do with darkness? Tell you what, Eve said coldly, give it to charity. Thank you. What else? What is the problem, Eve? You don't like the car? Honestly, I don't drive cheap cars. What kind of car would you like, please? A Bentley? But a house is always more irresistible. Sweet Jesus, exclaimed the man of God. Did Jesus tell you to go swimming in the deep sea? Just because you flock with generals doesn't make you one. There must be a beauty in your congregation who will be impressed by your car. Eve pushed the speakerphone and there was silence. For a short while, the phone started ringing again. Is that Bishop Joseph Ayegbenyinku? Faith blurted out. You better learn to stay clear of my business if you want to be close to me, Eve said. She was cold. The phone kept ringing. Anger crept up Eve's brows. She pushed the speakerphone button again. Look here, Miracle Man. I know exactly who gave you my number. Next time you call me, I'll get that same general to lock you up for trying to rival him. Eve was looking as lethal as the pretty stiletto that was back in her hand. The voice at the other end was no longer at ease. I'm sorry, madam. I did not know he's involved, please. Because he said you were sorry, madam. The man of God was obviously scared. Go on. He said I was a prostitute, right? Silence from the other end. Man of God, are you still there? That explains the rude passion you whispered into my ears at the bar, right? He said you were too expensive for mere mortals. His exact words. I see. Was that a warning or an invitation? Madam, since I saw you at the governor's party, I have not been able to get you out of my mind. I never knew Oga himself is involved. You already made your sales pitch at the bar. I am now very much interested in your feeling of immortality and the feeling of equality with the GOC himself. I'll call him right now after this conversation. When did the butterfly become an ego. Madam, please. I'm on my knees. I am not equal to Oga. Please. I beg you in the name of God. Let's just forget this whole incident. Just like that. Please. And what happens to the feelings you claimed you had for me? Eve was toying with the famous and highly esteemed bishop. You won't forget that also? Should I send the Peugeot, please? No. Thank you. When you whispered your intention to have me for supper at the governor's party, I offered you instant gratification, didn't I? And you were not man enough. Seriously? My wedding ring in exchange for a fling? I assumed you were joking. My wife would have crucified me. The car is worth more than the ring anyway. What do you think? Well, you blew your chance. Men who are afraid of their wives can't have me. And now, excuse me. Do not call my phone again. I can't stand a man whose love is like a soap bubble. Good night, man of God. Eve ended the call, and both ladies left the dining table. There was no opportunity to revisit the identity of the caller. She was sure that was Bishop Joseph Ayigbayinku, but the man's fame and impregnable reputation gradually eroded her certainty. They were on the rooftop, which was well lit, like the rest of this splendid home of Eve's. The stars had resumed their twinkling business. The soothing sway of the hammocks reminded her of the swinging tire tied to the branch of the orange tree where her freer pairs used to scream in delight until the rope snapped one Saturday. Swinging gently while lying suspended was quite nice. Eve was playing the guitar. She was handling the strings stirringly, making music that sounded Italian. Faith was not sure whether the mood was romantic or sorrowful. Eve seemed to be twanging the chords of her heart. The music stirred memories of her absorbing romance with Ibadan and took her up in the sky like a gliding bird. With her eyes closed and her fingers tracing the outline of the ego pendant Ibadan gave her, she could feel the presence of another bird flying with her. Two egos in the sky, sweet Faith and I. The secret of my strength is your breath on my face. Sometimes Ibadan would sow these soothing words while listening to Faith's heart beats with her stethoscope. She learned to ascend on the wings of his words to a realm where time stood still and bloomed with hope and joy. Ibadan was an outstanding lover in a campus where most boys just wanted the nectar but cared little about the flower. Ibadan was a reliable guy. You can bank on his words. The music rose to a crescendo. It was like 2 or 3 guitars playing. Then the music ended. Eve was far too gifted than was fair. That was what Faith was pondering when the guitar resumed its dexterous soul stirring. When Eve started singing, Faith was overwhelmed by the quality and strength of her voice. She started clapping. Tamara, Eve, you are incredible, fantastic. Where on earth did you learn to play and sing like this? Eve did not answer. She just continued playing and singing, looking like she was in a communion with some unseen folks up there. I am singing of tomorrow. I'm singing of love. Yes, I'm singing. Someday love would reign throughout this world of ours. I'm singing of love from my heart. Faith knew this song by Stevie Wonder. Ibadan, with his average voice, belts out the lyrics often. Here was a golden voice giving surprising power to the words. Eve of the golden anklet. Why does God load some people with so much talents that the rest of us are tempted to idolize them? Let's all sing. Someday sweet love would reign throughout this world of ours. Let's start singing of love from our hearts. Eve's voice rose to the sky and far beyond to the stars. Let's start singing of love from our hearts. Faith was transported to the realm of magic where she felt connected to every other human soul. When Faith returned to reality, a silence full of questions had settled on the rooftop. The hammocks were still. Have you ever been in love? Faith asked when she finally found her voice. The golden silence, my heaven, the vault where I have locked away memories unspoken about, pains never shared before, buried in a never visited place where even spiders have no access. There's no sweetness there, Faith. It's not worth the journey, not worth the very first step. I want to come, Eve. Have you ever been in love? No. Never got the chance. My heart is like a large diamond, dazzling, cold. There was nothing cold about that song. That was a performance. I've been well trained. Love is a weakness in people that Eve can't afford. If it ever had any meaning, I can't remember. You must have loved your father, Faith insisted. I have never felt love the way poets and singers and lovers speak of it. I have spent most of my years undermining other people's loves. What do you remember about your father? Security? I remember life in one tiny room without windows. Okay, there was a window, but we never opened it because the sight and the stench behind us were not for humans. In Morocco, I remember how neighbors, old and young, were always fighting and quarreling. Nobody ever touched a hair of my head. I was old soldier's daughter. Then, one morning, when I was going to school, he called me and made me promise that I'll be a barrister when I grow up. When I got back from school, the key was not in the usual hiding place. I tried the doorknob and the door creaked open. My father was sleeping peacefully. I tried to wake him up without any success. I became worried and went to call our neighbor, Papa Messi. He was my father's closest friend, so I thought. He used to give us loaves of bread from the bakery he supervised, and he used to throw me a coin now and then. Papa Messi rushed to our room and tried to wake old soldier up. When he was sure my father was dead, he sighed and pounced on me. I was shocked. He raped me right there. Papa Messi raped me until I passed out. Beast, Faith cried out. There's a beast in everyone. He brought out the beast in me. I thoroughly enjoyed how he died. I had him shoved into his oven and prevented him from coming out until he died. I thought you said you were 9 when your father died. Faith was incredulous. I was a murderer by the time I was 10 and a mother at age 12. Sounds like fiction. That's not a charitable comment, Eve replied. Anyway, when I woke up, his wife was nursing me. She had a bucket of hot water and a towel. She pressed my body with the towel. After immersing it in the hot water and squeezing it, tears flowed ceaselessly from my eyes. For myself and for my father. Mama Messi made me beverage and made me drink raw eggs and milk. She also convinced me not to tell anyone. She said people will mock me and that other men will join the train. I used to lie on the mattress with my father when I was too afraid to stay in the room alone with the cops. I begged her to take me to her home. I slept on the same bed with her that night. Papa Mercy and Mama Mercy were easily our richest neighbors. Papa Mercy worked in a bakery and always had fresh bread. Mama Mercy ran a palm wine and local gin bar. They had 3 whole rooms in that house, not counting the bar, which was a shop with 2 iron doors. We slept in one of the rooms. I woke up alone. It was mid-morning. I had skipped school for the first time ever. I got off the bed. I was in pain. Just then, Papa Mercy showed up. The memories of yesterday woke up. "Can't you greet?" he asked. I could not speak. "We buried your father early this morning," he said. "We gave his guitar to carpenter as payment for the coffin." I lay on the bed and turned my face to the wall to hide the new tears welling up in my eyes. I heard his footsteps. I cringed. He smacked my face, pinned my throat against the pillow, and resumed where he left off yesterday. I was determined not to scream nor struggle today. I bit hard on my lower lip and endured the man. While he was still pounding me mercilessly, I found refuge in planning a suitable death for him. When he was through, I spat on his face. He smacked my face back and forth until I passed out. When I woke up, there was his wife again, with the same accessories. She had lost my trust. "You will be a widow soon," I said in my heart. "No relations of yours came to the rescue?" Faith asked. "The only relation I ever knew was a crumpled picture of a curvy, pretty lady I had no memory of. My father, on rare occasions, when he talked about her, said she had a great voice and ran away to pursue music. She did not make it, obviously. She practically disappeared. I grew up quickly. I moved back to my father's room. I knew where my father saved our house rent and my school fees. My father could split an entire truckload of wood in a few hours, sweating and smiling, without taking any break. Whatever he made from splitting wood and other odd jobs, playing his guitar at bars and street corners, he dropped a part in the wooden box in the ceiling. I put up a brave face and continued to attend classes. Apart from the fact that I was living on the rent and next term's fee, Papa Mercy continued to make my life more of hell. First night, alone in my father's room, he kicked the door open and resumed his wickedness. In the morning, his wife shows up with bread and beverage. I knew he was going to end up in the oven, but I did not know how to fulfill the vision that gave me comfort. Second night, third, and fourth were the same. A 9-year-old orphan wailed and begged the neighbors for help every night. No neighbor asked any question. Neither men nor their wives. Occasional free loaves had their scruples in cages. I prayed for angels. They too failed me. When I overheard a rumor that I was a witch, that I had killed my father and was out to entice all the men, I thought of setting the house ablaze and burning all of us. Returning from school one day, I was within earshot of my breakthrough. 4 of our schoolgirls were talking about a dangerous man in Morocco. Scorpion was described as an ugly giant of a thug who could beat up 4 men. He was also said to be an armed robber and a jailbird. After trailing them and listening in on their conversation for half an hour, they suddenly went hush. "He lives there," whispered the chief gossip. And that was music to my ears. Later that day, I went boldly to the house. I asked the trader in front where Scorpion's room was. "Who are you?" she asked. "I am his wife," I replied. She pointed towards the backyard, and the smell of marijuana led me to his door, which was ajar. I went right in and met a gun pointing at me. He was not as ugly as the guests had said, but he had scars everywhere. The room was small, dirty, and untidy. "Smalley, you have no fear?" His voice was like that of a masquerade. "No," I said boldly. "What do you want?" "I want to be your wife." He rolled on the floor with laughter. Vengeance made me calm. When he was sober enough, I made my pitch. "I can cook very well. I can wash clothes and dishes. I will make the room clean and tidy." And then what? Instinctively, I understood the question and moved towards him. I lifted my short dress. I wore no brief. "Turn," he ordered. I obeyed. At 9, I had nothing on my chest, but I had a bubble shape behind from birth. "Smalley, if Askari sent you, I will murder you." Scorpion warned. In Morocco, we referred to policemen as askari, and snitching carried a death sentence. I was born and brought up in Morocco here. Sit down. It was massive and I was small. I threw myself at him and he caught me like I was a pillow. He liked that. There was a child trapped inside him. I was a perfect vent. That is how I got my vengeance tool, my school fees, and later my first baby. What kind of neighbors witnessed such wickedness and sat on the walls? That was the land of the living dead. The horrible wife was the odious undertaker. Eve took a sip of wine. Your turn, honey. Tell me your story, Eve said. Please tell me how you met Chief. Faith was curious about the journey from wretchedness to wealth. He was called Fredo in those days. He also lived in Morocco. Fredo was a bartender in Premier Club. He also had what people called a poultry in Morocco. It was a shanty of wood and zinc sheets where he received pregnant teenagers. He catered for them until they delivered. Then he would sell the babies to wives of rich and powerful men. That is how he wormed his way into the good books of the upper class. Generals and captains of industries came to him for babies, sexual connections, and other unusual favors. He had a reputation for treating the girls well and paying them handsomely. Scorpion was a fearsome giant, but just as lonely and insecure as most men. When I told him about my ordeal, he was eager to kill Papa Mercy that very day. When I described the death I had designed for the man, he was unwilling. Even bandits have some qualms. Scorpion believed in swift death, a bullet in the head or heart. He called that plain death. But my tormentor did not deserve a bullet. I wanted him to see death coming and be unable to help himself. Death without cruel pain would have been too kind. It took a little over a year to erode his reluctance to shove the baker into his oven. Lonely people often pose as loners. Scorpion was a poser. Once he was addicted to companionship, I started to push my luck, weeping throughout the night to upset him, brooding all night when he has no robbery business upsets him greatly. One night, I was reading for my primary 6 second term exam. He returned rather early from a big stake robbery operation. He threw a wad of money at me. I threw it right back. Smiley, why? Scorpion asked. It is now 1 full year since a man half your size raped your wife and is still alive because you are afraid. Scorpion, fear nothing. Go ask. I know you more than the people you want me to ask, I said. He was silent for a while. Then he threw me an unexpected challenge. If you come first this exam, I will roast that man like a goat. He never showed any interest in my education before. And I will be there to hear the cry. If you like, okay, it's a deal, I said. It was no deal at all. I had topped the class since I got into that school, with 1 double promotion in my record. Anyway, I studied with rage and passed with a vengeance. Before dawn, we went to the bakery. He pulled out a gun and had Papa Messi and his 2 assistants up. Under his cheerful command, the assistants tied up Papa Messi. The oven was built with mud like a thumb with an opening through which dough is loaded with long paddles. They were about to start loading the dough when we stormed them. Do you know me? Scorpion asked. No, sir, they chorused. You don't know Scorpion? You crazy? Yes, sir, they replied. You and you, relax. No problem with you. You, what's your name? Papa Messi, sir. Your papa give you that name? No, sir. Gabriel, sir. Papa Messi said. You know this girl? Scorpion asked. Yes, sir. You and you. Ask Angel Gabriel what he did. The assistants were hesitant, so Scorpion turned the pistol in their direction. Angel Gabriel, what did you do, sir? The helpless assistants chorused. Scorpion turned the gun towards Papa Messi and roared, Answer! Rape, sir. I raped the poor girl. The devil made me do it. Guilty or not? Scorpion asked, pointing the gun at the assistants. Guilty, sir. Good judgment, Scorpion said, still aiming the gun at the assistants. I took over at that point. How do you load the logs into the oven? I asked. They were about to explain, but Scorpion roared, Shut up! Demonstrate! They carried a log of wood, ran forward, and launched it into the open oven. Exactly what you did to that innocent log of wood, I said, calmly, and paused for effect. Do also to this guilty man. They cringed at the idea and looked to Scorpion to contradict me. To my relief, Scorpion asked, Or do I use one of you as sample? Papa Messi panicked and started running towards the exit. I never saw Scorpion move so fast. He swept the rapist off his feet so violently that the assistants obeyed the last command with panicky dispatch. I will spare you the grisly details. It was satisfying, I'm ashamed to admit. After the struggle and the yelling ceased, Scorpion shot the two assistants and we walked away. They were innocent. I made the same observation. Scorpion said they could not withstand police torture without singing. I had one more mission. I dragged my brute to my former house that evening. Mama Mercy was wailing, and the neighbors who sold themselves for loaves of bread were weeping as well. Our arrival heralded a hush and halted all the drama. Oga Carpenter, how much do I owe you to get my father's guitar back from you? I asked. Carpenter was trembling and sweating as soon as I planted myself in front of him with Scorpion towering behind me. No, ma, you don't need to pay anything. Let me bring out the guitar. I kept it carefully. It's in a perfect condition. I was thinking of bringing it to you, but I did not know where you live. Had I known where you lived, I would have brought it long ago. No need to talk of money. Carpenter brought out the guitar and we left. I had passed on a message to my former neighbors. By the next day, Mama Mercy was said to have chartered a lorry, packed all their belongings, and fled from Morocco. The incident drew Scorpion and I closer. Wherever we showed up, people would freeze with fear. Even when I walk alone, people were afraid. It was delightful to feel safe once again. I taught Scorpion how to laugh and to play the guitar. I taught him how to write his name. He was delighted. I made him happy and bought him clothes with the money he showered on me. I was available on demand for 3 years. I got a scholarship into secondary school. My pledge to my father was taking shape. I was happy. The day I wrote my last paper in Form 3, my math teacher invited me to her home. I was her favorite student, according to her, for beating the boys in mathematics. However, this invitation was not for mathematics. You are pregnant, she declared. Go for a test tomorrow and report back to me. Do not let anyone know except the father, if you know him. She was right. I was 6 months pregnant. I did not expect ovulation to start before age 13. I was 2 months shy of age 12, and my abdomen was flat. Scorpion was glad to see my tops standing up to be counted, but pregnancy was not within his contemplation. My huge vengeance tool was a coward after all. He bolted without taking an extra shirt. I waited for 1 week before I realized my sweet brute was never going to return to our little home. That was how I met Fredo, bartender extraordinary, owner of the floating poultry for babies, and a visionary procurer who has become the octopus chief of our time. Scorpion took to his heels. my maths teacher brought me to Fredo. She's a brilliant girl. Please help her. She could still resume with her classmates, all things being equal. I never did. My abdomen looked like I had a little too much to eat, even on the day I delivered a baby boy. I was not allowed to touch the baby before it was sold. I never saw him again. A week after, my training began. Close your eyes, Fredo said. I obeyed. What can you see? I can't see anything. Well, I can see mansions, private jets, exotic places, and gold mines. I can't see a thing, sir. Soon, you'll be able to see a fabulous future for yourself. How? If you can see it, if you believe it, you can achieve it. I hope you know you are extraordinary. I did not understand. I was a 12-year-old girl from the slum of Morocco. A fabulous life meant regular meals, washed clothes, and a clean house. As for being extraordinary, that seemed a rather extraordinary compliment. But you are extraordinary, Faith said. Thank you, honey. I did not look like this in those days. Anyway, mirrors were a luxury in Morocco. I saw my face a couple of times in the furniture maker's shop near my primary school. My eyes were too large for my tiny face. I did not feel pretty. The only thing about me was my lush hair. I remember my father making my hair every Saturday. My hair was my consolation as a child. But my father used to say I got my crown of hair from my mother, whom I hated for deserting me. So I had a beef with my hair. 3 years in Scorpion's little room, a mirror was not one of our assets. I only saw myself in bowls, buckets, and puddles of clean or muddled water. I did not realize my face was catching up with my large eyes. My lashes looked like wings in those days, and my lips looked like they belonged to an adult. In 3 years and after a pregnancy, my whole aura had changed. I knew nothing about these changes until Fredo took me to a beauty clinic in Obalende. For hours, I was wondering what all the fuss was about. I even wondered if my maths teacher had sold me to Fredo like they sold my baby boy to an unknown couple. The whole reason I did not panic was that Fredo stayed in sight with a fixed smile. Honey, when they started to wheel me into an inner room, I grabbed his trousers with all my strength and wished Scorpion was with me. Relax, Evelyn. They just want to change your clothes, Fredo said. What's wrong with this one? I asked him. You will never wear these kind of ordinary clothes again, Fredo said. You are about to meet the new you. Relax, okay? I decided to trust him. When they brought me back, I was bedecked with jewelries, a blazing red dress and high shoes that I could not walk in. Two ladies holding each hand propped me. They made me stand. I could, for as long as I did not attempt to move my legs. Fredo smiled. He whipped off a dark cloth from a frame, and I saw a stunning lady in the mirror. I took a puzzled step forward and lost my balance. Fredo caught me like a bride. Was that me? He planted a kiss on my cheek, the first and the last of such tender gestures. I told you, you are extraordinary. Back on my feet and more composed, I believed him. Fredo was driving a Volkswagen Beetle in those days. He drove me to a place along Cooper Road in Ikoyi, one of these colonial legacy buildings with well-tended lawns and flowers. I saw a Rolls-Royce limousine for the very first time in that house. Unable to walk in the high-heeled shoes, I held onto them. I wondered if Fredo was bringing me to the owner of the house for sex. I had not had sex since the early morning of the day my maths teacher unveiled the pregnancy. I would not object. The house was owned by a woman, an elegantly dressed and diamond-jeweled old woman who rose up from her throne and towered over both of us. She was huge. Her breasts were like water pots and her wide hips curved out by almost a foot. But her abdomen was flat and she was upright. Her long white hair had a sparkling tiara perched on it. She had an elegant poise and the kind of face that takes a hold on your eyes. Fredo knelt like a knight and kissed her offered hand, which had diamond rings on all fingers. "My queen," Fredo greeted. "This is the princess I told you about. Dr. Ikaite Brown, that was her name. She was heiress to a staggering fortune in real estate, steel, trading, and shipping, bequeathed her by her sixth husband, a pint-sized rebel Jew called Aaron Hussein, who wooed her for 20 years and married her for 10 delicious years. She was a celebrity courtesan in her prime who catered for colonial masters. She became my mentor." What does courtesan mean, please? Faith asked. Eve took another sip from her wine. "I prefer the word prostitute. One uses only her body, the other entraps with her mind and all her gifts. I prefer not to make a distinction," Eve explained. "I see." I was in suspense because she said nothing. Dr. Brown glided back to her throne and perched on it. Crossing her legs, she took a long, dissecting look at me and gestured for me to turn around. I did. Keep turning, she ordered. I was feeling the first wave of dizziness before she issued her verdict. Young. It's hard to tell how she's going to turn out, whether an artisan or an artist. Uncut diamond. Will it be fantastic or flawed? It's a mind game. More of what you know than what there is to show. The feeling that I was extraordinary evaporated. She was on scholarship, Fredo said quickly, and she beat all the boys in maths, French, and English languages. She did very well in integrated science and all her subjects, even in fine art. Can you sing? She asked. I can sing very well, ma. I used to sing and play the guitar every Saturday night in bars with my father, I replied. That's good. Can you dance? African dances, ma. Dance is universal. One language with endless dialects. I was lost. Encouraging was good enough. Was she going to approve or not? She has potentials. I owe you a favor anyway, so I'll take on this challenge. Not strictly for you though. Night is here already. Won't be right to blow away without investing some of what I know in someone deserving. She has potentials. I can ignite the energy of our craft in her. But the art requires inspiration from our own soul, and success comes when talents and luck locate each other. She'll be with me until she's ready. That is how I found myself on the biggest and most comfortable bed I ever lain on, but was unable to sleep. I was too excited to be in such a paradise. I played my lifetime over and over again. The recollection of old soldier making my hair, making me sing while he played the guitar, teaching me to play guitar that was taller than me. The recollection of the early morning I succeeded in getting Scorpion to achieve my vengeance, and my first glimpse of the new me. These were playing back so often. Sleep was eluding me for the first time. Why not try those stupid shoes? I got up and strapped them on, but could not get off the bed. I crawled to the chair in front of the dressing table. I was happy with my face and physique. They encouraged me. By sunrise, I could pose and walk in high-heeled shoes. I felt ready for the training and slept off on the soft floor. I had a dream that morning. I saw Dr. Brown arise from the sea. She handed me a glass bowl filled with wedding rings. As I walked away, more wedding rings were dropping into the bowl until it was overflowing. Faith turned her face from watching the sky to gaze at Eve. Eve was staring at the sky as if there was a screen up there showing her narrative. What manner of dream was that? Was she a mermaid? Faith asked. She was weaned on lots of malevolent mermaid tales by her Izon mother. Even medical school cannot erase some beliefs. Then came another spell of silence. Her mind drifted to her beloved Ibadan. He would have loved all these artworks all over his paradise. Ibadan may even recognize their styles and history. Eve of the golden silence. That is the kind of word play Ibadan could have coined for these withdrawals. Why was I so ready to ditch him? I thought I loved him so much. Faith wondered. Eve got off a hammock and beckoned to Faith to follow as she catwalked.